Just sat down and had an amazing conversation with Eugene Bareman from City Kickboxing, the man behind some of the baddest, some of the meanest, some of the best fighters on the planet. The Stylebender, Dan Hooker, Carlos Ulberg, you've got Navajo, Kai, and he also talks about some of the up-and-coming people you must watch. We spoke about his childhood growing up in West Auckland, wanting to be a rugby star, and a series of moments. And it's crazy when you think, when he talks about these moments, if they'd gone the other way, there'd be no CKB.
And so I actually quietly backed out because no one saw me, no one came to the door. And I was like, okay, back to rugby, boys.
He spoke about the hardships, and the struggle of starting a gym, going through really a decade of not making any money.
And it all started as a vehicle for me and Doug to get on with our fight career and train some office ladies in some classes.
We spoke about Fo Vake, and that was a tough part of this conversation. Fo was taken from this world far too early in a coward punch. And now it's driven him and his team to advocate and to push for law change so that something good can come out of such a sad and devastating tragedy. I promise you, this is an amazing episode and you are going to get so much out of it. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Eugene Bareman, enjoy. This podcast is made by the amazing team at Fanaticals. They put up with me, so they're pretty epic. Eugene, thank you so much for joining me, brother.
Yeah. Good to be here, Dave. I've seen you pop up on my YouTube and most recently with my old coach Lolo, so it's cool. It's cool to be on this side of it.
What did you learn from him, bro, when he was your coach?
It shaped the way that I look at the sport, like my perspective, how I look at the sport. And to be more specific, a punch wasn't just a punch, and a kick wasn't just a kick. It became something else. It became something very scientific, something very cerebral, something very intellectual. And he made me kind of see that side of it. And then when you start to look at it from that perspective, you realize that combat sport is very, very deep and meaningful pursuit. So it was him that shaped the way that I look at the sport, really.
Wow. How long were you with him for?
Oh, man, he would have to tell you, but I don't know, maybe a decade.
Wow.
Yeah, a long time, I feel. Yeah.
Man, I just sat down with him for 2 hours and learned so much. I can only imagine how much you learned from being around him for that amount of time.
Yeah, I mean, Lolo's lived a life. So many lives have been touched by that man, and the combat sports industry attracts some, as you know, some very colourful characters from all different walks of life. So it kind of inevitably leads to like a very interesting life because you're meeting so many interesting people. And that's his life personified,
Where did you grow up, bro?
I'm a Westie.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm a Westie. I born and bred in a little suburb called Massey, which is I thought was a beautiful place to grow up. It's a very mixed kind of neighborhood, like socio-economically mixed. It had like people that did all right, middle income people, had poor people, and then in terms of like all the different cultures, had a lot of like islanders, Maoris, people from all over the world living there, a lot of Pākehā. I thought it was a fantastic place to live because it gave me a very broad kind of outlook on on life.
Yeah, I live in West Auckland now. I love it.
Yeah.
But I never thought I'd move out of South Auckland.
Yeah.
I love it so much. And then when I moved out, because my wife's a Westie, man, I love it.
Yeah. I mean, everywhere's that we share a lot in common, right? But every part of Auckland kind of has that little bit of has a slightly different flavour, a slightly different way that people carry themselves and the way people walk. But I think that kind of is what makes it interesting, right?
Yeah. And what was your childhood like? Did you always want to get into the fight game, or?
No, I came from a rugby family, still a die-hard rugby family now. So my childhood was back in the good old days where you just started playing. There was never the tag rugby and stuff wasn't around. You just jumped into tackle and early Saturday mornings, freezing feet, running around, tackling other young kids, and I just grew up. I went through that system that every young Kiwi went through in those days. Very thankful for that, to be honest. I'm very thankful to learn about rugby culture and team sports. I think that a lot of that shaped the way that I coach and see things now, is that kind of like background in rugby and team sports that I had, yeah.
Yeah, because I guess the fighters you're on your own in there, but then you've created this awesome team around them, right?
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that people, one of the misunderstood things about fighting is it's very, very big team sport. It's represented in the end competition, I guess, by one person, but it's the team that's kind of got you there. And it was a lot of that, it was a lot of my experience in those rugby teams that kind of shaped the way that I wanted my team to kind of look like and interact, and the camaraderie that we wanted to have. I think that's one of the great things about rugby culture, is that you build that camaraderie and you build that theme that there's that reliance on the bloke next to you to pull you through, and that if you don't have everybody cooperating and moving towards the same goal, it's going to be very difficult if every individual doesn't do their job for the team. So, yeah, I built a lot of ideas around my team based on those early ideas from rugby.
Yeah. I guess when I look at BBM, it's sort of similar, you know, chasing the dream in league, you know, and being around some really good teams and good coaches, and just wanting to, I guess, create like a village. Yeah. Romadai, we're all one, you know, and we're one thing I used to always do is if people finish, the fitter guys finish first, they had to come back and get the rest of the people still going. So that's this culture, eh?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's what New Zealand excels in. Like, we're obviously one of the best in the world at rugby, but you don't get to be the best at the top end unless you've got your kind of like grassroots level, and then all the different levels leading up to that top end, you know, that top end that everybody watches. You've got to have like this firm culture already set in the lower areas that come through, and I think that's, you know, that's definitely something that I borrowed from rugby. Yeah.
As a youngster, bro, what was the dream? Was it to be an All Black, or coming up? What was the goal?
Yeah. I think in the early stages, I just shared the same Kiwi dream as every young kid. You know, I was a generation that watched those early World Cups, the early success, like David Kirk, 87, I think it was, because I'm old now. So, yeah. And then all the failures after that. And then, yeah, just to be an All Black, or just to get as far as I could playing rugby. But then obviously I obviously switched my dream at a certain stage because I fell in love with combat sports or fighting. So in the early stages of my life, it was just to be an All Black, or take it as far as I could.
Yeah. How was how did you fall into, or to change it up in terms of getting into the combat sports side?
Again, I've got rugby to thank for this in a weird sort of a way, right? So I kind of was an okay rugby player, and then I ended up my last year of high school captaining the first 15. And then after that I left and I went down to the local club, and then I went to play there. And when you're young like that, naturally you think you're a little better than you perhaps are. Your head's, you got a big head. You've come from high school and whatever. And so I expected like a nice smooth transition, or nice smooth ride into like the next level of rugby, like club rugby, playing reserves or prems or whatever it was. And then as it turned out, obviously with the benefit of hindsight, you see things differently. But basically there was already established players there that I wasn't, that they didn't deem me good enough to be ahead of them. So I was pushed back. And then when you're young and you've got an ego and you think you're better than you are, sometimes you react, in hindsight, you react the wrong way to that. So my reaction to that was I kind of like spat the dummy, right? I was like, man, if you guys don't think I'm good enough, then the sport doesn't get the privilege of me in the sport, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Thinking that meant something, right? And so you let your ego get ahead of you when you're like a young 19-year-old or 20-year-old or whatever it was. I left the sport thinking that, that the All Blacks were going to miss out on the next greatest thing that was coming along. But the only benefit to come out of that, okay, because no one cared that I left rugby and stuff. My position just got filled by the next bloke in line, right? But I guess the benefit of that was that year I needed something to do because I was definitely into, being physical and fitness and all of that. And so I loved the martial arts movies and all of that, and I loved to watch a good boxing fight. And I was like, why don't I give this a go? Back in those days, there was the yellow pages.
Yeah. Went
straight down the yellow pages. And I don't know how good at marketing and advertising Lolo is now. But back then I thought he did a genius job at his marketing. And there's like 4 or 5 gyms in that yellow pages. But what made his one stand out, it had trainer of over 100 national champions, trainer of more than 10 world champions.
Wow.
And obviously none of the other advertisements had that, and I was like, mate, say no more.
Yeah.
I need to go and see what this guy's cooking, go and drink the same water that they're drinking over there.
Yeah.
So I followed that advertisement to basically all the way to little Balmoral there, underneath the church where Lola was based at the time. But the first time, it's a very difficult place to find if you don't know where you're looking. It's basically underneath the church at the back.
Yeah.
And so I had difficulty finding it, and then I just followed the noise basically, and then found the door, and then I remember walking in, and you could hear the noises started to get louder. And it was sparring day, so I actually remember quite distinctly, even though at the time I didn't know these people, I remember obviously Mike Angove, Jason Suddy was training in the gym at that time. I remember Ron Seford being there, and I remember Ray being there. Ray wasn't based in New Zealand at that stage, but I remember him being in the gym, and and Doug Viney, and they were basically sparring, and that was the day that I decided to walk in. So again, things aren't what they are today, so I walked around the corner, and I saw all of that going on. I saw basically them just beating the shit out of each other. So I looked around the corner at that, and I'd looked for about 3 or 4 seconds, and then I was like, yeah, I'm not going to do this. And so I actually quietly backed out. I backed out quietly because no one saw me. No one came to the door. Then I was like, okay, we're back to rugby, boys. And then, so I went to back up to my car. And then as I went to hop in my car, I heard my name. And I could hear Eugene. I was like, man, I turned around. And when I popped my head through the door, an old friend of mine who I used to play rugby against from a rival high school, he saw me pop my head through the door. And he was already training for his first fight. And he ran over and he said, I saw you pop your head in. I said, yeah, I did, but I'm popping it back out because I ain't going in there, brother. And he was like, nah, don't be silly. It's all good. All the boys are all good. Trainer's a great guy. Just come through and I'll introduce you. And so I went. So obviously with his help, I felt a bit braver, and I went in and I met Lolo, and then he just said, yep, we'll see you tomorrow. Make sure you bring some gloves and stuff. And then I showed up the next day. And that's a funny story because that guy's still my friend to this day. I remember going to his wedding about 10 years ago because I never, years went on and I missed the wedding because I took a wrong turn. But I made the very end, and I got to the speech part, and I was like, man, I missed the whole wedding. I feel like I got to say something. And I got up and I told him that story, and he had no idea. But if it wasn't for him seeing me when I popped my head in the door, obviously my life's taken the trajectory it has now.
Wow.
It would have none of what has happened in my recent past would have ever happened. So that's Shannon Foreman. Shout out to Shannon Foreman for helping me out there. Kind of a sliding doors moment.
That's crazy, eh? How just that moment can change the trajectory of your life.
Yeah, I mean, I was out of there, bro.
What do you think you would have done? Gone back to rugby?
Yeah, I mean, it's been so many years since then. I have no idea. Like I look back now, it's just, what would have happened? But, man, I have no idea where my life would have taken me without martial arts because I've been so entrenched in it. You know? I can't see a life without it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you got into fighting. What was the style?
Yeah, no. So Lolo's was a Thai boxing gym.
Yep,
so
yes.
I went straight into the kicking and punching and stuff. And just started learning about the sport and obviously the history, Lolo's history and the history of that tiny little world famous gym in Balmoral there, and all the past fighters. And I just started to immerse myself in the culture, I guess.
Yeah.
And as I got deeper and deeper into it, I realized that there's just this whole other world of possibility. There's this whole combat sports scene in New Zealand. I mean, it's very much in the public eye now, but back then it was not so much. A lot of it was still very pushed underground and stuff. And I just realized that there's this other fantastic martial arts culture out there that, a lot of people don't know exists. I mean, like, you got to remember, I found the gym on the Yellow Pages.
Yeah.
It's like, and I just started to just love everything about it. And obviously, with Lolo's guidance, I got deeper and deeper into it and had a better and better understanding of the sport. I had a little fight career myself until I opened up my own gym, City Kickboxing with Doug. But I look back at that time very, very fondly. I feel like if you're a fighter and you've had the privilege to spend a part of your career training under Lolo, I feel like it's set you up well for the future.
Yeah.
And I'm talking about the knowledge that he's passed on and given to you. I feel like if you spend a decent amount of time training with him, it's going to completely change and shape the way that you see the sport, your perspective on the sport. And I think that's the most valuable thing that he does for young men and their combat sports career.
And Thomas, how did you get into CKB? I remember in the early days, I came down and sparred, like this very, very light sparring. Shout out to Mike Angove. Mike's always been around when I got into the fight because I didn't have many people who liked me very much when I was playing this character of the brown butterbean. But he invited, and I remember coming to the gym and I was like really, I was super nervous, and I actually sparred some of the guys and sparred Izzy.
Yep.
Real light. And I remember Mike in the corner saying, take it down. To Izzy, take it down. I said, if he was taking it down anymore, he'd be he wouldn't be moving. But it was an amazing experience to go in there and see what you guys were doing in the culture and all the fighters. When did you start it, bro? How did this all happen?
Yes, I mean, basically I started as just happenstance, really. Like through Balmoral, I met Doug Viney. And Doug, at the time he was fighting as a part-time job, he worked at City Kickboxing, which was owned by another ex-Balmoral fighter. And then Doug just needed a hand. He needed someone to take classes and just help him out around the gym. So he kind of saw that I had an eye for technique and stuff, and then he kind of asked me, and then I was like, I'll give it a go. And I just took a few classes, and the owner of that gym just paid me. His name was Dwayne Marshall, but he actually lived on Waiheke, and he commuted over. So I worked there for a few years. Doug had worked there for many years before me, and the gym was in a bit of financial trouble. So basically, Doug who at the time was an active K1 fighter, had basically brought in his name, because he's a relatively big name then around the New Zealand combat sports scene, and that's what he had basically brought to the table, and he had brought with him, some of that marketing power that comes with his name. He had managed to use that to bring people to the gym and kind of like lift the gym up and help the gym out, bring that small gym a bit of notoriety, right? And so I worked there for a couple of years, just taking classes, fitness classes or whatever. It was mainly a fitness gym. And then the owner of that gym, Dwayne Marshall, he was over the commuting back and forth to Waiheke. And he was like, look, I'm going to sell this puppy. And obviously I'm going to put it on the market, but I want to offer it to you guys first if you'll take it. If you don't want it, I'll just put it on the market. And then so Doug approached me and he was like, would you be interested? And to be honest, I wasn't interested. So I had actually moved my family to another city because I was just in a transition to like move to another city for a little bit just to try something different. And I'd moved my family down to this Tauranga basically. But I'm sure you know Doug well enough. It's just persistent. Yeah, just wouldn't let it go. So he kept bugging me and bugging me and bugging me. And then slowly but surely he kind of turned me. Yeah. Changed my mind. And then the next minute, you know, I'm waking up one morning and I'm like, my mind's completely changed, but I haven't told my family. My wife and I haven't told them. So then basically I changed my mind and then I had to figure out how to tell them. And then eventually I got the message to them and they were like, mate, we've been down here for 6 months. And then they finished the year and then we took over the ownership of that gym. And it all started as a vehicle for me and Doug to get on with our fight career and train some office ladies in some classes. Yeah. But the main goal and intention of it was, hey, look, we don't have to have a job, you know, this and labouring over here and doing the door work over here. We can just work on this gym and then we can shut the door. We can do our own training. It's like the perfect scenario for a young professional fighter. Being very naive and not realising that running a small business in New Zealand is it's not as simple. It's not as simple as like locking and turning off the lights at night time. It comes with a whole other host of responsibilities, legal responsibilities, tax, lease, power, water, everything that comes with it. We kind of naively went into that business and we thought it was just the best thing ever. That's how we got it started, basically.
Far out. When did it dawn on you that that it's a lot different? Because man, it is tough. I remember. I mean, I learned the hard way in terms of owning supermarkets and all these different things, and totally learned because it's
Yeah. Oh, bro. Yeah. I mean, I reckon you're looking at close to a decade of no profit on the books. Yeah. I mean, you're looking at the most of that decade not even being able to pay ourselves. So obviously we got money, but we mainly got that money through personal training type sessions. So, I mean, me and Doug used to work our asses off, you know, like we're talking like 10, 12, 14-hour days doing personal training. On top of that, you've got all the gym obligations, like you're running the classes and stuff. But the gym was set up poorly then. Like me and Doug was working so much on personal training. What we really needed to do was tweak the classes and encourage more membership to the gym because that's the easier work, right? Yeah. Then you're just taking a few classes and you're not working 10, 14 hours a day doing personal training. You're just like taking a couple classes, 2 or 3 classes a day, working 3 hours. Yeah. But that's just the setup that we had. So those early days, like, I mean, that gym, and the personal training paid us, but the gym was made a loss for like close to a decade. The actual business of the gym, it was very, very difficult. But like I did, we had the personal training. We also had the freedom. Yep. Doug could take off overseas whenever he wanted. He didn't have a boss there that he had to apply for leave with. I could do the same. There was the freedom that came with owning your own business, even though it was very difficult. And so we kind of like reaped the benefits of that freedom. Like at that time, Doug was very active and he was overseas a lot back in those days. And so, you took the good with the bad. As a business, it was probably a failure, but also it was giving us what we wanted. Yeah. And we wanted to be fighters. We wanted to be, we wanted to be in the mix. We wanted to be fighting all the time and training all the time, and that's what it gave us. And so,
Yeah, people will look at where you're at now, but they wouldn't realize all that work that's gone in it for so long, eh?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's just the start, bro.
Yeah.
I mean, there was a decade after that where there's another more heartache and stuff in terms of the business, because the martial arts business that's not a business to get into if you want to make money.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very difficult at the grassroots level to make money. Obviously, like you've got to get some cut through, and then you get guys to the UFC and things start to turn around. But like getting there is like, getting there is as rare as hen's teeth as well, and that's very difficult to do.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's I wouldn't encourage anybody into the business of martial arts. I don't think it's. I think there's better avenues to take. When my fighting career started to wrap up, and I started to concentrate more on coaching, I definitely had no aspirations to make UFC champions or top 15 UFC fighters and stuff. I just had a very small goal. It was to help the person in front of me just get a little better at fighting, so that his time with me, when he walks away from his time with me, he's better than where he was previously.
Yeah.
So whether it be just a tiny incremental change, that was kind of like my goal. My goals were small. They were just let's just make this person a better fighter than they were yesterday.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like how it started. I feel like Lolo works very much the same way, small incremental changes, add them all up together, and eventually you might surprise yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When did it turn, bro? Like, was Izzy your first big fight?
Nah, Izzy wasn't the first big fighter, not at CKB.
Yeah.
Nah, not at all. There's a big history at that gym way before Izzy.
Yeah.
Like our big fighter was our first big fighter on the international scene who made it to the top, 16 in the world, was actually Doug.
Yeah.
I mean, as we get older, that history gets pushed further and further back, right? But Doug was our first kind of international fighter. He was fighting international fights against big names on a very regular basis.
Yeah.
At that time, he was managed by Ray and his team, and Doug's managed to make it to the top 16 in the world there. At that stage, he lost to Badahari, but the top, in UFC, for instance, the coveted place to be is the top 15.
Yeah.
Then you're separated from the kind of cannon fodder.
Yeah.
You make the top 15 in the UFC, you are truly and undeniably one of the top 15 fighters in the world. Out of all those thousands or maybe even hundreds of thousands of fighters around the world, you are one of the best. And then obviously top 10, top 5 champion. So Doug was able to, at the peak of his career, make it into the top 16 back in those days in K1.
Yeah.
So we also had a young man who's, again, as history goes on, he's been lost a little bit in the annals of time, but a young man called Jordan Tai.
Ah, yes.
So I don't know if you remember Jordan Tai.
Yes, I do.
Jordan Tai.
He was at our gym for a bit in Glen Eden. He came along.
Yeah, absolute legend of a fighter. Still to this day, out of the people I've held for, probably one of the strongest hitters across all weights.
Wow.
He could hit the pads, and I could feel his punches would feel just as heavy as like Hemi's or Junior's.
Yeah.
Or Carlos's at 70 kilos.
Wow.
So that boy could hit, very skillful, had a chin, like you could drop the guy, but you could never knock him out. And he fought and beat some of the best guys in the world at that time as well, with what limited kind of resources we had in New Zealand at that time. He fought some of the best guys and traveled the world, beating some of the best guys. And so, like, between him and Doug, those were the first two that gave us that little bit of international experience and prosperity. And Izzy trained with both those guys, like in the early stages of his career. Lesser known names, but they just, they were were all killers back in those days, but history's kind of like the pages have kind of turned, and sometimes it's a little bit sad in combat sports. You kind of lose some of these names and just how much they've contributed to the sport.
Yeah. Who's your current UFC fighters you got going at the moment?
There's the obvious ones. There's like a Dan and them, but the new guys. If we just go through the new guys, like there's a guy that just made the UFC called Ollie Schmid.
Yep.
Lawrence Louis. Yeah. Cameron Ralston. I mean, you're talking like all these guys are the 25-year-olds. You know what I mean? You got to remember, like Dan and Izzy and them. They're all 35. So we're talking like a 10-year gap. And I've got a bunch of guys that are based overseas. Like I just finished a 4-week training camp with Rob Whitaker.
Yeah.
Which was really cool. It's the first kind of he's been over to CKB, but this time he came over with a real purpose because we had an opponent.
Yeah.
And it's just really cool. He's just a fantastic guy, obviously a very high-level fighter. And it's just cool to have a young Māori kid who's from over here but has been over there his whole life back kind of where he belongs, back where he's from. I think that was like, I found that really nostalgic. I found that really cool that there's kind of like a full circle moment where this kid that doesn't know much about New Zealand, for the most part, he's grown up in Australia, a young Māori boy. At the twilight of his career, kind of ended up back in Aotearoa, kind of training at City Kickboxing. I thought it was a really cool thing to do. So heaps of talent coming through. I think the future's looking good. Yeah.
Who's the one to look out for, you reckon?
You mean in the UFC now or coming through?
Coming through with, like, who's
not
the
quite
next
in the
Izzy?
UFC.
It's who do you think's the next Izzy that you guys got coming through?
Yeah, I mean, the big one for me is I think the one that has you can see has Izzy type potential is a kid called Navajo Stirling. Yeah, he's a young Māori boy from, he's actually from Upper Hutt. So he's from Wellington, and he made the move up to Auckland like several years ago. And he's just, he has the right work ethic.
Yeah.
I think that's the main thing.
Yeah.
Got to have the work ethic above everything. Like, it's beautiful when you get a talented fighter come through. It's like a beautiful thing. They just move smoothly. They understand timing. They understand range and distance, and their feet move fantastically. But it's also an even better thing if you just get a workhorse come through.
Yeah.
Yeah. And one thing I can say about fighting is I've seen heaps of talented people come through with no work ethic, and I can't push them through, even on the back of their talent.
Wow.
I can't push them through to where they need to be to. But I've had heaps of people, and they don't have much talent, but they've just got this dogged determination and work ethic, no talent, and they're always the ones I manage to push through.
Wow.
So over the years, I've just learned that talent's great, but work ethic is better. Work ethic and discipline will outshine talent any day of the week. When you get that rare combination of both, that's where the magic happens. It's just it's a bit of a unicorn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
On the fourth fight of Izzy and Pereira, when he got the win, how did you feel? What was the reaction?
Sense of relief.
Yeah.
Sense of relief. There's you only in a coach's fight career and a fighter's career, you only get to face people with that special gift and that special attribute maybe two times or three times. And the attribute I'm talking about is like true devastating knockout power. You know, you're talking like Mike Tyson, George Foreman. You're talking like a very special gift. You know, in the UFC, you're only talking a bunch of guys too, like 4 or 5 guys. You know, you're talking Ilia Topuria, you're talking Alex Pereira. There's only a finite number of guys that have this special gift. And if you get to face one of them, it's not something you should run from. It should be something you should run towards.
Yeah.
We ran towards it 3 times before that, and we lost every time. So, yeah, jubilation. But, I mean, the team put together, you know, like a fantastic game plan, in my opinion. I think that's what won us the fight. And we took a different approach from the other 3 fights. We finally decided to make a significant change, and a lot of what Izzy does is about risk mitigation and getting himself out the way and trying to use his range and his speed and his eyes to the best of his advantage. And a lot of the game plans before that for the other 3 rematches, they were based around that. They were based around mitigating risk and keeping our distance. But then finally, like by the time the 4th time came around, we were really like, man, we got to do something different, yeah. And so I remember the coaches floating the idea that we need to fight. We need to fight. We need to bring the fight to this guy. Like if he walks us down, we need to stand there and pick our moments. And so a lot of the plan was just based around Izzy having, instead of trying to exit and trying to find ways to technically get away from Alex, it was like to just have the right footwork, to be in position, that when we needed to like do some, you know, get on the defense and the back foot, our feet would be in position so that our main form of defense would actually be offense. And that's kind of how it played out. Israel put himself in a very similar position to the 3rd fight, the first fight in the UFC. But this time he had his feet underneath him because that's what we had practiced. We'd practiced him fighting in that pocket, being ready. And so it wasn't the exact sequence that we planned, but the basis of that sequence was having yourself in the correct anatomical position to be able to throw and defend shots instead of your feet being all over the place like in the previous fight. And he was able to do that and find the shots that he needed, and just a massive sense of relief, brother.
Yeah.
When you're fighting a guy like that, he's one of the scariest people you can fight in combat sports today.
Yeah.
Oh, I've never felt better after a fight.
Wow.
Yeah. That's cool. It.
What's so special about it? What made him stand out?
Izzy's the 2 things that make Izzy stand out for me are, and this can be a blessing and a curse. I feel like that's been the strength of our relationship, is knowing this about him, is his unfaltering belief in himself and what he's and the task that he's trying to accomplish.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what the odds are that and how many people not believing in him at one particular time, or the naysayers, he is able to block that out. And in some cases, he is able to use that to his advantage. He's able to turn that around. And at the level that he's doing it, I haven't seen too many people being able to just be that steadfast. I haven't seen too many people being able to do that at his level. It's just a special power that he's developed that I've just never seen anybody else being able to do it at his level. Yeah, so that's the first thing about Izzy that really stands out to me, that I haven't perhaps seen in other fighters. And then the second thing about Izzy, which is amazing, is he is probably the most intellectual fighter that I've come across. And what I mean by that is I was able to show him something, and that within half a day of showing him that, he was able to execute that technique almost perfectly in a live scenario like sparring. I'm not talking like, we're not talking like a jab. We're talking about some of the more nuanced kind of stuff that goes on in fighting. You know, manipulating range, hiding footwork, you know, like just some of the more nuanced things that I've seen some of my other fighters take years to learn. We're talking about a half-hour session, and then 3 hours later, he is actually doing it.
Wow.
And that's like unheard of. Like I've never seen anybody being able to just have such a natural ability to just to fight. He's just a naturally gifted fighter. And so those are two things that stand out to me that I've never seen another fighter being able to replicate in my time.
Yeah.
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, that one time I had the privilege, I tell my kids, you know, I sparred him. I just couldn't see anything coming.
Nah, an amazing fighter. And listen, like, if anybody can turn their situation around in terms of like their fight career, and it's going to be, that's the guy you want to put your chips on.
What's next for him?
He's going to fight again.
Yeah.
He's definitely going to fight again. And he will, like I said, I will never, I've seen his capabilities.
Yeah.
So I will never stack my chips against him.
Yeah.
I will always push all my chips towards him, because if anybody can turn things around, it's that kid right there. Because unreal talent.
Yeah, inspiring, man. He's so inspiring. Like years ago, before he was like who he is now, he sent me an Instagram message. I'd posted about some of the stuff I'd been through, and he commented, saying, "Man, what was it?" Like he was just, what was it that got you through that? It was pretty cool.
Yeah.
You know, how do you teach, or do you think, you know, resilience, like pushing people to where they want to break, but they don't?
Yeah, you can teach it.
Yeah.
You definitely can teach it. Although it's difficult, you can teach it. So it's done over like many, many years, to be honest.
Yeah.
And that's why it's so much easier to get someone who just automatically through their personality or through the way they're made up, or whether that be through the experience of their life or their upbringing, it's always easier to get someone who has that like innate kind of just dogged determination and work ethic and resilience in them. But you can teach it. You teach it through through the tasks that you give these young men at the gym. You put them under duress. You test them in the gym. You test their intellect. You put them under pressure. You see how they react. You see how they fall up short, and you try and build them up again. And you just keep testing them and testing them and testing them in the gym. You look up 5 years later, and you've got someone who previously at some point would have given up, and all of a sudden they're pushing through a lot of the things that they weren't capable of pushing through 2 or 3 years ago. And the type of things I'm talking about are, you know, resting sessions against where you're putting them in situations where the odds are against them because the partners are better or the task is too difficult, or putting them under duress through all the different ways of manipulating sparring sessions, group sessions, pad sessions, and you just slowly grind away at them, and you teach them resilience. There's an opportunity cost for that, Dave. Like, there's an opportunity cost. If you have to spend so much time working on someone's mind and like resilience and determination, then it's going to take away in other areas, obviously. But that's it is what you got to do. Like if you want to push someone to the higher level, it's not just about the technique, and it's not just about being physically, like adaptable and able to change, and you've got to encompass everything.
Yeah.
And so sometimes it's the mental side of the sport that has to be pushed ahead of the physical side of the sport, and there's definitely some guys in the gym, and that is our focus.
Yeah. But can we speak about Fo?
Yeah.
What's
Yeah, absolutely.
rest in peace.
Yeah.
What was he like, bro?
When I think of Fo, like nowadays, I always, like through the grieving process and that you push out all the bad stuff, and you just like when you mention his name, I automatically just think of his smile. It's just a big tongue and smile, big white teeth. A lot of the negativity that I associated with, obviously not with that situation, is like a lot of it's pushed out now. I choose to kind of look at him like in a very fond light now. But yeah, he was just the man. Super talented, very friendly, very responsible human being. Had a daughter. What I loved about Fo was he was a little bit old school, and I tell you what I mean by that. Like when I was a young professional fighter, there was a different time, and you weren't allowed to be a professional fighter. Okay, and what I mean by that is you weren't allowed to drop everything and just become a professional fighter. It wasn't allowed to be done. Your parents wouldn't allow you to do it. You had to be doing something else that actually, made you pay some taxes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? At the same time as you were trying to be a professional fighter. It was just the work ethic of the day. It's different now. Like now it's seen as an actual career.
Yeah.
So we had to have a job, but now young people come and that's their job. They consider it their job. Even if they're not a professional, they're like, I'm an amateur. My parents are gonna support me for 4 or 5 years until I become a professional. Well, that wasn't a done thing.
Yeah.
And when I look at that nowadays, I'm still on the fence about whether that's the right way to do things nowadays, you know what I mean? Because I feel like part of why we were so good as professionals and we were so determined was that we knew the other side of life.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We knew what it was to pay a bill and worked 8 hours on a job that we didn't like. I feel like that gave us some of our strength.
Yep.
And if you take that away, then what's going to fill that gap? Now, how this comes back to Fo is because Fo was one of my rare fighters who was a full professional fighter, but he still worked a full-time job.
Wow.
It's funny that I'm saying that he's one of the rarities because it should be like that all the time.
Yeah.
He obviously was an apprentice electrician for many years, but then he became a fully fledged electrician, and he worked full-time. He got his training done before work. He got his training done after work like we did back in the day, and he still accomplished a very good professional career. In fact, he's from a fighting family, the Vaki family, where all 4 brothers fight. And they wouldn't mind me saying this, but if anybody was going to reach the higher honors, it was going to be him. He just had a little bit more, it's a very talented family. I mean, James fights in the PFL now, which is one of the leading MMA organizations in the world. James fights in the PFL now, but if you ask me who the most talented was, who probably was going to go the furthest, it was going to be Fo. Just a little bit more power. His eyes were a little better, a little faster, a little stronger. He seemed to have been like the thoroughbred in the family, yeah. And that's how I look at him, And then obviously we had the tragedy, and that is what it is. But I try to look at the fonder times, Him and Carlos doing a lot of training together. He didn't mind doing a few bicep curls, even though they have no functional, they have no functional purpose in combat sports. But he's just a fun-loving, quiet, hardworking father from young student from Kelston Boys, came up out west. It's one of those things, Dave, like you'll know this through your experiences, but sometimes in your life what seems like the most least deserving people are the ones that they take from us. Yeah, it's weird. isn't it? Mm. Mm.
Back in those days, they called it the king hit, but it's right in it's a coward punch.
Mm.
So what's the work that you're doing now? And you've got the law change and the walk without fear, trust and everything.
Yeah. So I guess what came out of that tragedy was obviously a bit of an empty hole around the gym, and I just remember getting the boys together and saying, look, like, we've got a couple of choices here. We kind of we can let things go and we can just kind of grieve and just get on with our lives, and we can live the best life we can in honor of our foe and all the rest of our loved ones that leave us too early, because that's essentially how we want to live, or we can be a little bit more active, and we can, on behalf of foe and using his name, we can maybe do some good with this issue. We can maybe, and again, the goal started small. It was like, maybe we can prevent another family, like the Vaki family, from going through this tragedy. Maybe we can save 1 or 2 lives. And then in that meeting, like, there's all sorts of fighters there, like all the big names and some of the names that people have never heard of. And like, it was pretty unanimous that it would be a really cool thing to do. In his name, kind of like start advocating kind of against that sort of behavior, against that kind of violent, that street violence, coward punch. And so we kind of unanimously voted right there that we'd do something about it. Now, like, man, again, if I'd talked to you, I probably wouldn't have, because getting into the charity space, brother, oh my gosh.
What's that walk been like, bro?
Yeah, bro. So difficult. So difficult. Heaps of well-intentioned and good people, but it's like there's also a lot of like waiting around for someone else to do something. And then, like, guess what, man? Like, if we all wait around for someone else to do something, nothing gets done.
100%.
So then it takes people like yourself, like Mike Angove, Celia Steinhausen, another one of our board members. It takes people like that to step forward and actually do it, for the actual action to happen. And that's yeah. So it gets frustrating, but at the same time, like, I feel like it's one of the things in my life right now that I'm really looking forward to.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I feel like if I hadn't have gotten into that space, there's a chance I wouldn't be so enthusiastic about coaching. I think it's been a blessing. I think I've needed something else to balance out basically the cutthroat environment that I was in.
Yeah.
Something to kind of like ground me a little bit. And just the humbleness of the work that you do. Obviously, as you know, you don't get any money for it or anything. You're just doing it out of just trying to make the world a little bit of a better place. So it's been really cool. We've been trying to change the hearts and minds of the people, Dave. We're trying to get people to see the coward punch as a really decrepit act, and to really kind of like, as a society, look down on it and look down on the people, the perpetrators, the people that do it. You know, there's certain crimes in the hearts and minds of the people that are seen as like absolutely abhorrent and disgusting. We don't have to go into those now, but we know what they are.
Yeah.
When you hear about that, society just says no. I mean, even bad people in prison say no.
Yeah.
That's where I would love for this crime to go.
Yeah.
Because I think it is as abhorrent as some of those crimes that we're not mentioning. You go up behind someone and hit them while they're unsuspecting. You're trying to kill them.
Yeah, 100%.
And part of I think part of the big job that we've had is changing the hearts and the minds of people so that they see this as such a ghastly, terrible way to behave, terrible way for a human being to treat another human being, like very low kind of act, as well as everything else that we're doing, including law change, advocating against other types of street violence. A lot of the filming that's going on, we speak out against that. There's a lot of stuff out there that I think the public has to stop pushing under the carpet and just really pay some attention to, because there's some stuff going on with our young people, man. Like I feel like if the wider society paid a little bit more attention, I feel like more would get done. But it's kind of like they're being treated as isolated incidences and pushed under the carpet. But man, it all comes home when it's actually your kid involved.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's when it all makes a difference. Then you're now I know what that kid, that UFC guy with the beard was talking about, now that my kid's involved. And that's all very, that's all said and done, but we need to be preventative.
Yeah.
We need to not react.
Yeah.
So there's heaps of good work going on. Difficult space to navigate, Dave. Obviously, you've helped us a lot over the years, but yeah, difficult space to navigate, but a very necessary one and a very rewarding one.
Yeah.
I feel like it's one that I feel like it's a lifelong journey that I'm going to have to just hold the mantle for a while.
Yeah. Oh, good on you guys, man. Really, thankful to the work that you and Mike and all the team are doing. And obviously, whenever Mike rings me to ask me to do something, I'm
awesome.
More than happy to talk away. It's just so important.
Yeah, appreciate it, bro.
Yeah. Bro, last question, and I could talk to you for hours and hours and hours, but what keeps you going when times are tough?
Yeah. On a personal level, it's my family. Yeah, I'm a young and an old father. So I've got my 26 and a 19-year-old, but I got a 5 and a 7-year-old as well. So, just pushing on for them. 4 boys. 2 of them, brought up in a very different time, and then the challenges of bringing these younger ones up in this world is, oh man, it's like, I don't know. Things have moved so fast, Dave. I feel like the challenges are completely different from the 26-year-old and the 19-year-old. So much, there's some stuff, there's some difficulty with this modern age, bringing up these younger ones that I'm going to have to wrap my head around. But in terms of my why, from a wider point of view, it's still the same. It's still young men coming to me with a dream, an impossible dream, and needing someone to say, or needing them someone to look them in the face and tell them that's not an impossible dream. I know a few other men that came to me with that exact same dream, and we thought it was impossible then, but now we've done it, and we've done it a few times, and what we thought was impossible then, and the thing that you think's impossible now, is very, very, very possible.
Yeah.
And it's giving them that hope, and then starting them on that journey and taking them through that journey. That's my why. That's what I'm here for.
Love it, bro. It's one thing we always yell. It's possible.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, man, thank you so much, bro. A real honor to have you join me. It was amazing.
Yeah, honored to be here, brother. Thank you.
Awesome.
Thanks for the work that you're doing in the charity space and stuff as well. It's all needed, brother.
Thanks, bro. Thank you so much for watching, team. I hope you enjoyed the episode. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. And if you got something out of this, if it's helped you or someone you know, please go down to the link below and buy us a coffee. It's hard to keep this going, but we must. So please help us to help you. Let's go.